Yeah, it's clear that God hates divorce. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that we do that's sin that God hates, and so it's one of those type issues. And the question here goes along with what we were talking about: is could a pastor that's divorced, could they become a pastor again once that person's divorced? And it really goes along the lines of what Pastor Roger was saying: was it a biblical divorce? Did the person cheat on the individual? Has these lines been broken? Are they remaining, abstaining from those types of things? And if it's a biblical divorce, it's very clear that person is qualified. Part of the problem is we need to clarify salvation versus leadership, because God has called people that are in leadership as pastors and elders to be living to a certain standard. And once we're no longer living to that standard, that doesn't mean we're not saved. What that means is we're not qualified to lead. And there's a big difference between the two. And so we have to make sure we delineate between those lines. And we do that. But if it's a biblical divorce, then that person is allowed by God to continue to do that, because God has set up those specific rules. And if they're living by the rules like Roger and Larry and they were talking about, then yes, that person is qualified. However, if they step outside of that and they're the ones that created divorce, or they're the ones that have cheated, then the real question is, do we want that type of person leading a body of Christ? And that's what it really comes back to. If that person has already shown that they are not leadership material. Doesn't mean they're not saved. Doesn't mean they're not going to be forgiven for the sin. But what it means is God has called us as leaders to live to a higher standard. And it's pretty clear in 1 Timothy when he goes through the list for elders and things like that. As pastors, that's a higher standard that we must uphold to be able to keep the body of Christ pure and to lead in direction.
James. I'll wait. James 3:1 also says, "Not many of you should presume to be teachers, my brothers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly." And so there is a higher standard for those who step out in front in terms of God's leadership. And we have to be responsible for that.